Kastel, and we're here for the second installment of Kastel's Kitchen. And I'm broadcasting live today from Rockton, Wisconsin. We are not in our offices in Washington, D.C., which are closed. And I live along the Kickapoo River on the west coast of Wisconsin, pretty much where the northern border of Iowa and the southern border of Minnesota meet at the Mississippi River. It's a hotbed of organic farming, and I'm really pleased to be able to do this work from an agrarian community. I'm not pleased that I can't visit my farmers, the farmers that I work with, that I respect. I'm a hired man. These are the folks I work for. In turn, we all work for you, who are our customers, who buy organic food, who go out of your way. And today we're going to talk about the very best organic brands. So Organic Eye is a farm policy research group. It acts as an organic watchdog. Again, we're based in Washington, D.C. We're housed at the offices of Beyond Pesticides, which is our parent organization. They have facilitated the forming of Organic Eye. We have to raise our own budget, but they take care of the administrative overhead, the administrative tasks, and they also supply a lot of our knowledge and horsepower. My colleagues, Jay Feldman and Terry Schuster, have more years invested than I do. Together, we have about 120 years of experience in overseeing the organic movement. So I'm very honored to work with them, and they add a lot of value to the investigations I do. So I want to introduce my colleague, Krista Carter, who is going to tell you a little bit about our closed captions, which we've instituted. I had been contacted by one member who is hearing impaired and asked if we could do it, and we are. And she'll tell you how to turn that on and a little bit about how to ask any questions along the way. So Krista?
Sure, thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. So glad to see such a great turnout for our second episode of Kastel's Kitchen. As Mark mentioned, we do have closed captioning as an option right now. And so you can see at the bottom of your screen on Zoom, you have a little closed captioning button on the dashboard. And if you'd like to turn those off at any time, you can tap that and choose to turn those off. Hopefully there will be a transcript as well that comes along after this that we can also send out for those who want to reference that. If you have any questions, please feel free to type them in the chat box here, or if you're watching this on Facebook Live, you can also submit a comment there, and then we'll answer all the questions at the end. Back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Krista. Okay, so when she says here, if you're watching on Zoom, use the chat feature. And if you're watching on Facebook Live, if you're watching the archived version, this will be available later on Facebook and our YouTube channel. If you're watching later, you won't be able to ask questions. But if you're on Facebook, just send us a comment, and Krista will field those as we go on. So I want to talk about brands. Before I want to talk about brands, I want to just say that when Michael Pollan wrote the book Food Rules, as a follow-up to the Omnivore's Dilemma, he said the number one rule: eat food. So a lot of what's available in the stores is not really food. It's imitation food and highly processed. And that includes organics. You can get a real range of quality in organics based on not just the ingredients, but how it's processed and prepared. So I eat almost all whole foods. And so you won't see a brand on there. And if you are lucky enough to live in a community where there's a CSA, a farmer's market, farmers that sell directly, a member-owned cooperative, you can connect with the freshest, most nutrient-dense food. And so that's number one. But we all eat some processed foods as an ingredient, as an adjunct. And that's what I want to talk about today. So I want to talk about some of the best brands of organic food that I have here in my kitchen and I've used for years. And the opposite is kind of like an anonymous food, because either it's private label, so it's the great value brand at Walmart or the 365 brand at Whole Foods. And some of those products we know something about. In general, it's all secretive. So if you see private label milk, it almost undoubtedly comes from a factory farm. And the #1 supplier of organic milk is Aurora Dairy, based in Colorado, with cows in Texas, thousands of cows in Texas and Colorado. And then they ship milk all over the country. That's not organic. My milk comes in this jar, and there's no brand label on it. It comes from a neighbor who farms. So I'm very lucky. But there are brand names of organic dairy products that are very trusted. And so I will give you a little plug right now, and go back and watch the archived version of Kastel's Kitchen. The first episode was on yogurt. So the yogurt that's in my kitchen is 7 stars. It's out of Pennsylvania. There's no additives other than culture. It's not homogenized. Same with Butterworks yogurt from Vermont. Ann Laser and Jack, who just passed away, good friends for many years, sad right now, or Hawthorne Valley out of New York. Just really plain, simple yogurt, but tastes beautiful. Cows are happy. So watch, if you eat yogurt, watch episode 1. But I make my own yogurt. I use 7 stars as my culture, and when I run out, I get 7 stars. But the opposite is private label, and it's anonymous. They don't want you to know who manufactures their products, because they want to be able to have the financial leverage to switch manufacturers at any time. And so some of those might be highly creditable, some might not. It's a secret. The next thing, and I think I have to take this off to reach it. Wasn't planning to display this, but this is Napa Valley Naturals. And I don't know much about them, but by taste, there's a lot of fraudulent olive oil on the market. This stuff's real. So this is in my kitchen. But I've also used Spectrum, and Spectrum's a major brand. So let's talk about corporate brands. Spectrum is owned by Hanes Celestial, and Hanes is a holding group, corporation. They make some of their products, they subcontract to what in the industry we call copackers. So they might never buy the ingredients, they might never handle the product, they just stick their label on it. They may or may not have control over the specifications. So the products I'm going to talk about have a story. In my consulting career, 15 to 20 years ago, in the training I've done with the food co-ops around the country, I talked to these professionals. I said, do you sell food? And most of them nod their head yes. And I said, no, you don't sell food. You sell the story behind the food. That's what we're all hungry for. And so these are brands where I know a bit of a story. So let me give you an example of the opposite of the holding company that would be Hanes Celestial or private label, and that's Eden Foods. They're based in Clinton, Michigan. I've been there. A lot of these corporations don't like Mark Kastel. They don't like watchdogs in our industry, making sure that organics really means something. Eden Foods invited me a few years ago to speak to their employees. They thought that would be motivating, because Eden Foods, my relationship with Eden Foods, I didn't know, goes back to before I was even involved professionally in the organic industry, when I was in the farm equipment business in Michigan. And I got involved in organics because of pesticide poisoning, like a lot of farmers and farm families. I didn't know it at the time, but those farmers in Southeast Michigan were growing food grade soybeans, the first in the United States. Prior to that, they were all imported from Japan. The largest grower of soybeans in the world was importing food grade soybeans. So some of my customers in the farm equipment, Case tractors and International Harvester, they were growing these soybeans under contract for Eden Foods. Some of those same families grow soybeans for tofu or soy milk. They grow these black beans. They grow these zucchini beans. I think that's how you pronounce these. And the pinto beans that I might include, or the garbanzo beans in some of my dishes along with the fresh vegetables or meats or whatever else I have. So they have a relationship. Michael Potter, who owns that firm, sits down at a kitchen table with the farmers and signs a contract. He knows what they're growing. He knows what the soil's like. He knows the family's integrity. And then they bring them in and they have their own plant where they make beans, not a copacker. They have their own plant where they make pasta. They do tomato products in amber glass instead of in cans, so it's less reactive. So there's a story behind these products, and they're certified organic, but incidentally, he doesn't put the USDA seal on because he doesn't want to share that seal with Aurora Dairy. That's how high integrity is, and that's how suspect some of these corporate involved leaders are. The next brand I want to talk about, and they make, they're the largest organic cereal maker in the United States and North America. They're based in Canada, but they have plants here, is Eden Foods. And this is one of their granolas, and they make packaged cereal. They have a pretty wide variety of products. This is still owned by the Stevens family. They put their name on it. I can remember at the beginning of the commercialization of organics, we had a lot of the business people. They were one of us. Before the formation of the Organic Trade Association, we had an umbrella group called OFPANA, and it was farmers and business people and some consumers. We all wanted to grow the organic industry, but we wanted it to stay highly high integrity. And so we used to go to farm conferences, the original meetings of the USDA National Organic Standards Board, and those founding entrepreneurs were there. Today, almost all the brands we're familiar with, and there's a chart on the homepage, if you go to organici.org, will show you the interconnections of who owns the brands that you have in your kitchen. So Eden Foods, Nature's Path, they're still owned by the founding families, but Michael Potter, I've had come to the NOSB meetings and join with the farmers I work for and try to pressure them to do the right thing. Eden Foods has one of their senior staff people at almost every National Organic Standards Board meeting, no matter where it is in the country. They feel an investment in the future of organics. You know, I always ask people, who owns the organic label? We do. The farmers that created it, the businesses that believe in integrity, and our customers. It's a partnership. So we can't leave that rulemaking to the corporate lobbyists. We have to be there. I'm starting by talking about some of the bigger companies. So Eden Foods is a very diverse grocery purveyor. And so either online or in your co-op, if they don't carry it, you can ask for it, or at a Whole Food store, you'll find these products. So Dr. Bronner's, they make bar soap. They're most famous for their liquid soaps that people have been using for literally generations. But here's why I use them. And you can use them as dish soap, but I bathe in this, and I even wash my hair in this. I used to use the liquid soap, but since my hairstylist and makeup artist are off duty for the last 9 months, I'm doing my own hair for a change. So why do I use this? Number one, the largest organ in your body is your skin. Anything you put on your skin is going into your bloodstream. Even some of the health and beauty aids in the stores, you go to a co-op or a Whole Foods that use the word organic, contain synthetic chemicals. So Dr. Bronner, the main ingredient here is coconut oil, and not just any coconut oil, certified organic coconut oil. So I'm pretty confident, my cat likes licking this in the morning and I don't stop him. I'm pretty confident that I'm not doing anything deleterious to my health when I bathe in this product. So think about it. I use the unscented baby soap, but if you use peppermint, it's kind of refreshing. Again, certified organic oils. they cost a little more. But here's one of my tricks. I just bought a case of this at my cooperative. It was on sale. It's 20 or 30% off. If it's not on sale, and I stock up, at a lot of the co-ops, and I believe Whole Foods does this, I don't know about the grocery stores, they'll give you 10% off if you pre-order a case instead of cleaning their shelves off. So it's a way to buy organic without going crazy. So I'm going to, let's interject just a couple questions, and then I'm going to go back with some brands that you might not know about that I really like and trust. Do we have any questions? I've seen comments. No. Okay, only comments. And I hope they were good comments. Chris is shaking her head. Yes, good. Thank you. And thank you for the comments out there. Okay. Here's a brand owned by my friend Sandeep. It's he's originally from India. He lives in the US. It's called Pure Indian Foods. And so when I make chana masala, so I either make my own chickpeas, or when I'm in a hurry, I open up one from a can from Eden Foods, and I put in fresh organic cauliflower and some potatoes, and usually green peas, onions. I sprinkle and lots of olive oil and ghee, and they make ghee also. So does Organic Valley make organic ghee. So I use this pre-made spice mix. There's a couple different kinds. I'm not sure if you call this Kachari. And another is Gram Marcella, and I marry that with the oils and the ghee and butter, and I am now an organic Indian chef. This is great stuff. I know from talking to him that just like Michael Potter in Michigan knows who's growing his beans either in the U.S. or Canada, he knows the farmers in India, and I can't get there. I don't know those farmers. So I need to be able to trust the people who are supplying my food. Here's another wonderful smaller brand. I know it's available online. I don't know about retail because I've only got it online. Living Tree Community Foods. It's from the Bay Area of California. And California is where we grow most of our nuts. So this is a walnut butter. They make almond butter. I think they make pecan butter I've had, or pecan butter, and almonds, or some of the farmers I work for call them almonds. And but they make tahini, owned by Dr. Jesse. They are truly high integrity, again, involved in the organic movement, not just manufacturing things and focused on profit, but righteous business ethics. And the other part is these are wonderful. They are actually, everybody I've treated these to have said they're the best nut butters they've ever had, and I will not argue with them. And I'm going to highlight two more things. If we have questions, we'll answer them. If not, we'll go back to work. I'm chained in front of my computer, and Chris has let me get out now, out of the office. So Frontier Herbs, there's a lot of fraud in importation of conventional and organic products. We don't know these people, but Frontier is a cooperative. It's available in co-op stores, but I believe also in Whole Foods. It's a pretty big outfit. Now, here's my vanilla extract, but they make all kinds of spices. I buy them in the bulk section at my food co-op, or they're packaged. It's a company I trust. And here's RE Botanicals. And so if you've tried CBD oil, or if you're interested in CBD products, first I'd recommend going to the Organic Eye Facebook page. I'm sorry, you could go there too, but the Organic Eye website, organiceye.org. We did an analysis on the CBD industry because there's a lot of labeling that's very deceptive. Companies that are calling their product organic, it's not really organic, it's not certified, there's no oversight, or they're including ingredients that would disqualify from. So RE is certified organic. There is a logo on there. There's a few other certified organic brands of CBD products that have gone out of their way to jump through their hoops. We filed formal legal complaints with the USDA, asking them to enforce the law. So far, they're refusing. We're too busy. We're too busy to do CBD products. I'm not sure how many millions their budget is up to. It might be $15 million a year, but they're too busy. We will be filing court actions and going after the USDA and the bad actors and trying to turn this around. So there's obviously more in my kitchen. We might revisit this subject on another occasion, but these are all companies where I know the story behind the label. And many of them, or most, I know the people involved, and I have a high degree of trust. So it combines analytical research that I've commissioned over the years, site visits, and relationships I've made. And this adds meaning to my food, to my life, knowing where my food comes from. And again, a lot of my food comes from the local food shed. My dollars support farmers in my community. And part of that is trying to eat within the seasons. So right now I am going crazy on winter squashes. I have a fall CSA share from Harmony Valley in Viroqua, Wisconsin. And Richard DeWild, who's run that farm for decades, is an artist. He's probably the best gardener in Wisconsin. Beautiful food. And so I'm not flying my food. I'm not eating asparagus from Peru in December. So I think that's all I had to say. And Krista, do we have any questions that we should be addressing?
Sure, there are two. Can you firstly repeat the name of the Indian spices that you mentioned?
Yes, it's Pure Indian Food. And they have a really broad product line. I bought them online, but I see Sandeep at some of the shows and conferences, and when I was doing investigations into factory farming, masquerading as organic, I first met him because he contacted me. He wanted to have suggestions of where to buy butter for his ghee that came from family farmers whose cows have names, not numbers, and who are out on pasture, not in some feedlot. So that was a businessman that I feel really good about supporting his family, and the quality and freshness of the spices and herbs I bought from them are just superior.
Great. So are there any particular organic certification sources that are the most trustworthy?
That is a really good question that will be the subject of a future Kastel's Kitchen. So let me grab a couple products here. So Eden Foods, who do they choose as a certifier? By the way, the certification by law has to be on the label. So we can use that as part of the way we judge corporate ethics and the products we're buying. They're certified by the organic, I'm not going to spend time to read this because I know this, the Organic Crop Improvement Association, OCIA. 30 years ago, when I was farming, 30 years ago plus now when I started farming, I was certified by OCIA. It's one of the certifiers that was formed by the farmers ourselves. They never sold out. They never got into corporate agribusiness, although they do a few bigger outfits like Eden Foods. And they're still democratic in terms of how they make their decisions. I was invited to speak at one of the OCIA annual meetings. And again, there are a lot of certifiers that hate yours truly because they don't want to lift the veil on how some of these certification operations are running. So OCIA is really tops in my book. So is OneCert. It's another independently owned certifier. And there are some big ones that aren't really doing the job. And we'll talk about that because part of it is there are some good brands like Eden Foods. They're certified by QAI, Quality Assurance International. We don't view them as one of the high integrity certifiers. I call them the corporate certifier of convenience. But Nature's Path was using them before they knew a lot about the critique that I did. And and it's very, very expensive long-term project to change certifiers, which I've talked to them about, which you as their customers could also reinforce that. I'd like them to consider other certifiers. So there is a difference. So I'll leave that as a cliffhanger. There's one top high integrity certifier. I'll mention one other low integrity certifier because they're the biggest in the country. And you'll see them on quite a few labels. It's CCOF in California. They certify some big factory dairies. They've praised them and awarded them some of their top recognition. They certify hydroponic. They are the pioneers, as far as I know, of certifiers that quietly made a deal with the USDA to certify, quote, organic farms, organic, without soil, growing in a liquid medium, water and liquid fertilizers. Well, you know, we used to say, feed the soil, not the plants. That was the mantra of organic farmers. But forget about the spirit of the law. The letter of the law says that before you're ever certified, you have to file your organic systems plan, your design of how you're going to farm, and have it approved by your certifier. And part of that will be how you, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, maintain or improve soil fertility. My question is, how do you, as a farmer, maintain or improve soil fertility without soil? So CCOF is not a trustworthy certifier in my book, but both they and QAI approve some really good farms. So and brands. So we're hoping that those high integrity participants in the organic industry will put pressure on those folks to switch certifiers, or put pressure on CCOF to switch the way they're doing business. Krista, do we have any other questions?
We do. So for someone who may be new to this and new to organic buying, what advice would you give for buying? That's the most, like, for identifying what's the most wholesome and pure.
Sure. Okay. So number one, the organic label is not perfect. You know, we've seen some illustration here, but it's the best we can do in the marketplace, because when you talk about conventional products, there's no scrutiny independent of the FDA, USDA, EPA on all the agrochemicals being used, the drugs that are being administered to animals, the growth hormones, genetic engineering. I mean, we know what we want to avoid on a macro level. In organic, so the number one is look for the organic label or the representation by farmers that they're doing it organically. But that's the beginning of our homework. Some of this, and you can watch this again archived if you missed the beginning or want to share it with your friends and family. This is the homework I've been doing for years, and I'm going to continue to try to share that. Number one, I've had a lot of reporters ask me, especially in recent years when organics gained a lot of cachet, you know, what should we be concerned with, organic or conventional? And my answer to them is yes. There's no reason why you can't have it local and organic. So during much of the year, my fruits and vegetables are coming from my local community. I buy frozen vegetables. We'll talk about this vegetables at another time, from Snowpack Farms. They're in southeast Minnesota, not far from here, but they're some of their products are widely available around the country. Unlike oh, now I'm going to have a mental block, but UNFI, the largest United Natural Foods Incorporated distributor of organic and natural foods, owns Woodstock Farms. That's just a private label brand. Cascadian Farms, that nice fuzzy brand you'll see on the chart on Organic Eye homepage. There is no such thing as Cascadian Farms. It's General Mills, but you never see General Mills on their package. You know that because you're talking to Mark Kastel. What you see is Small Planet Foods. Doesn't that sound nice? But their vegetables come from wherever. They used to come a lot from China and offshore, and I think they've changed that because I really bashed them hard a few years ago on that. And not only was I bashing them, but we all joined together to put competitive pressure on them. But Snowpack has been owned by the same family for 40 years. They harvest those vegetables at the peak of freshness and freeze them within a few hours, just lightly blanch them beforehand. And so I'll tell you, at this time of year, their whole green beans are wonderful, frozen. Whereas if I get organic, fresh green beans from Florida, they're almost tasteless. And so we can eat within our food shed. So in being an organic gumshoe or a detective, I have found virtually no fraud at local farmers markets, CSAs, and the farms that supply your member-owned co-ops, because those buyers, those produce managers at your co-ops, and there's about 275 in the country, they deal directly with the farmers. They visit the farms. It's, again, one more layer. So buy as close to home as possible, and then seek out some of these most trusted brands as a starting point. Krista.
Can you recommend any sources for whole foods like dried beans?
That gets harder. So yes, first of all, I don't think Eden Foods sells dry beans in bulk. And they might, actually, they sell them in packages, I believe, cardboard packages, but in the bulk section where I shop. So if you shop at a co-op or Whole Foods, ask the grocery manager or whoever's in that department to bring you the 10 or 50-pound bag out on their wheeled cart from the back that you want to look at it. You can see who certified it. You can make sure that it actually does say organic on the package, and you can see grown in the US. So the beans that I buy in bulk are grown in the US or Canada because I trust them. So I don't drink soy milk, but if you drink soy milk, the beans for Eden Foods come from the United States or Canada. If you have other soy milk, the most likely sourcing is China. And I don't trust anything that I eat from China. We don't trust food for our dogs and cats from China anymore after they poison them with melamine. Why should we trust what we're feeding our children? So I would say, look for domestic production. It's not a perfect answer, but it's certainly more trustworthy than imports. Any other questions, Krista?
Right. Yeah, just one more. Do you have any recommendations for any like Western producers, Western US organic farm producers?
Well, yeah, there are, again, I'm going to emphasize to go to your local stores and buy local produce, because there are Earthbound Farms, Taylor Farms, Grimway, which owns Cal Organics, and Bunny Love. There are tens of thousands of acres that they're working. These are industrial operations. I've never heard that they're cheating by using unapproved synthetic chemicals, but are they nurturing the soil the same way as they do at Harmony Valley? I'm going to be very unprofessional and take this off and grab something. These are my carrots I just picked up. I just did an extra order of winter storage crops, winter radishes, carrots, onions, and those winter squashes I was talking about. Look at the color of these. I don't know if they're really showing up, but these are gorgeous. And I can tell you that two things make them taste like candy. And I'm sorry, out west, you're not going to get this. The first thing you're not going to get is frost. That certain crops like Brussels sprouts, kale, all the brassica family crucifers, they get way sweeter after they've had one or more frosts. And I've harvested, both as a farmer and gardener, kale up until December 1 here in Wisconsin. So it'll take a hard freeze, and you want to then harvest them on a day they've thawed out. And the other thing is soil fertility. And if we're in a giant farm and we use the soil just as a medium for the roots, and we're not concerned with the microorganisms and the microbiome of the soil, we're not going to have that same level of nutrition and flavor are parallel. And So there are some wonderful farmers in the California Pacific Northwest who don't get the frost, but they do really concentrate on soil fertility. And so you're going to have to do your own investigations locally. Part of it is the taste test. And so I hate to insult people in California, but a lot of those carrots don't taste like anything compared to these. So I appreciate the questions. Are we done, Krista? Okay, we're done with the questions. We've milked this as far as we can go. Buy your milk from a certified organic farmer. I'm going to be posting something. I promised last time, I didn't do it yet, on some dairy choices and yogurt choices online. I'll post a little recap here. We are a public charity, so I'd say that if you find value in what we're doing, please consider donating at organici.org on the web page, on our secure web page. I want to thank Krista again for moderating. I want to thank you for tolerating me for a whole 45 minutes. And till the next issue or episode of Kastel's Kitchen, thank you very much for joining me. Bye-bye.